am I meant to go after that? That was unbelievable. I just want to ask everyone a question first. Raise your hands if you know anyone that has been impacted by ADHD. Okay, there's quite a number of you in here. Did you know that 6 million children in the USA alone have been diagnosed with ADHD, and 2/3 of them are either on strong medication to treat their symptoms or are in behavioural therapy? My son has ADHD, and when Rhonda asked me to write a chapter in a wealth book, Women Gone Wild wealth book, I really couldn't tie my story with wealth. Between you and me, I was an accountant in a previous life, and so wealth to me meant money. And how could my story relate to money? And Rhonda definitely showed me the way. And so I'm going to share my story with you today and show you how wealth equals abundant living. So when my son was diagnosed with ADHD, we were told that the best place to start was with an ADHD paediatrician. And not knowing what I know now, we agreed with the treatment plan that the paediatrician put forward, and that was strong amphetamine medication. And so when I left his office with the diagnosis and the medication, the prescription in hand, I actually felt relief. I was actually excited. We could, with this one pill, reduce my son's symptoms. We could bring back that calm to our house. Living with a child with ADHD is really tough. It is really lonely. And the meltdowns and the tantrums and the inability to sit at the dinner table and eat his dinner. And so at first, when I gave him the medication, things were actually really, really good. He ate dinner at the table for the whole time, the first time in his whole life. And by the way, he was 4 years old. 4 years old on strong medication, yes, I know. And he was able to play with his brother nicely. We got this sense of calm back into our life, but this didn't last for very long. And his symptoms came back with a vengeance, and all of a sudden he started to develop all of these new symptoms as well. The tantrums returned. He didn't want to eat. He couldn't sleep. He lost weight. And so we went back to the doctor, and he prescribed another medication to treat those symptoms. And then he prescribed another medication to treat those symptoms. And by the time he handed me the 4th medication to treat the symptoms of the other 3 medications, I knew I was done. We could no longer continue on this path. This wasn't the right path for us. I remember this one time we were in the supermarket and he had the most mammoth meltdown right there in Costco. So picture a tomato pasta sauce glass jar smashed all over the floor. He was sprawled all over it, in the floor, crying and screaming, and I was mortified, and I was thinking to myself, why me? Why does my life have to be this way? Why do I have to be going through this? I told my husband I didn't like my son. I mean, I loved him, but I didn't like him. I mean, what mum says that they don't like their son? And that was the moment that made me change our life. That was the moment that sent me back to school to study holistic health and nutrition and science and do multiple specific certifications. That was the moment in time where I revolutionised our family's diet, where I healed my son's gut, which healed his brain. And thank you. So my son today is thriving. He is in middle school. He hasn't been on meds for years, and he's a straight A student. But you know what? He's happy. And I'm happy. I actually like him again. Don't tell him that. I mean, he knows it. I tell him all the time. I feel really bad for him, actually, like he's going to grow up, but I tell him I do love him. And our family is happy, and we have that peace and calm in our life. We have wealth. we have abundant living. And through my journey, I have been able to help close to 1,000 other families reduce their child's ADHD symptoms, to be able to find their wealth, to be able to find their abundant living. And so if you put your hand up, when I asked if you were touched by someone that has ADHD, you now know what I know. You know they don't need to suffer. You know they can have wealth and they can have abundant living. Thank you.